The amount of strain that's being put on the U.S. is, their forward deterrence and attack capabilities and all of this stuff is all predicated on naval power, namely aircraft carriers, because Iran's decimated all of the U.S. bases. That's the thing that nobody in the U.S., including the media, want to really shine a spotlight on. And that would sort of mean ultimately the immediate resignation of Pete Hegseth for presiding over this epic failure in U.S. history. But they're pushing that off to the side and doing a sort of misdirection right now. Just think about it, Daniel. Look at the USS Abraham Lincoln as an example. That particular ship that is being kept out at sea for over 200 days, fraying at the seams. You even have reports of U.S. sailors, trying to jump ship. In some cases, we've all seen those reports. But even then, that ship alone has launched, I think, 10,000 air sorties. What, in the last 6 months? Is that what we're talking about? 10,000 air sorties, and still, that's not enough. 10,000 air sorties is not enough to subdue the Iranians. So, at some point, you really have to look at the military strategy of what's been done here, and huge questions should be coming up from all the military experts of how the United States could have failed this horribly in their approach to this conflict.
It is also worth noting that Iran's economy, as strained as it has been by decades of sanctions and now the war, has nonetheless been surprisingly resilient. For all the perceptions of Iran as an economic basket case, for all the real pain inflicted, it is also true that Iran is one of the region's more diversified, functioning industrial economies. Iran borders 7 countries and can trade over land. It also has several ports, some of which have been operational even during the war. Iran exports more than just oil. Protectionist policies and entrepreneurship have fostered booming industries such as steel, petrochemicals, iron, and food products. Iran has adapted to international sanctions by producing more of what it needs at home, including cars, pharmaceuticals, and home appliances. These goods are not always internationally competitive, not by a long stretch, but they do cater to local demand, and that helps the country during wartime as well.
So what do you think? Is that a country teetering on the edge, and will this next batch by Scott Bessent push them over?
Again, Daniel, this is like identical rhetoric to all the successive threats of new sanctions packages against Russia since the Ukraine war began. You remember all the announcements? No, this is going to be the mother of all sanctions, unprecedented. This is going to be the one to break the back of the Russian economy. The fact of the matter is, there is no universe where sanctions have ever worked against a U.S. adversary. They don't. They only work against allies, threats of secondary sanctions. How do I know this? Because it's in the academic literature. Okay, and anybody who's looked at all of the case studies of sanctions can see that you cannot change the behavior of a target nation. And this is all documented chapter and verse in Daniel Dresner's great academic work, which is called The Sanctions Paradox, which is required reading for people who study international relations and sanctions, as one example. So I don't think Scott Bessent or anybody else in the Trump administration has actually looked at any of the politically scientific literature on sanctions. If they did, they would know that this is a dead end. And what it does is exactly what Fareed Zakaria, of all people, when you have to be told off by Fareed Zakaria right. on CNN, you're not in a strong position with your argument. And he's correct. Iran has doubled down on import replacement, exactly how Russia did following the sanctions that came down with the after Russia's reuniting with Crimea. I say reuniting because Russia and Crimea used to be one country before 1953, by the way, for those who don't know the history. And that does create that resilience. The other thing that Iran has, which Fareed didn't mention so much, is you can't pull off this type of resilience unless you have political solidarity at home. You have to have the public buying in to the effort, to the mission. You really have to have this kind of cooperation, if you will, between the society the state, and they have to buy in on the policies. Iran has to get buy-in from their people, just like other countries do, and they have it clearly. And so, any threats like this, do they really understand? Do people understand, Danny, that when Scott Bessent goes on global TV and brags that he took down the Iranian currency and caused the riots in the street, as he did, that goes on heavy rotation on Iranian national broadcasting, like this announcement, and it goes to the people, and then any remaining opposition that was blaming the government of Iran for mismanaging the economy under sanctions, they get washed away. I mean, from a political point of view, I can't imagine the Trump administration doing it any worse, because they're trying to beat their chest and get their social media hot takes.
دیدن نادیده ها